All right, welcome back, everyone. Pleasure to see some new faces and some faces of this morning in the room. New members of the jury for this afternoon, welcome as well. We will proceed with the fourth presentation of the day with the group here. Yes, Hamish from FC Burnley is just joined us online. Hamish, welcome. Maybe if you could just say a word.
Hello, apologies, being slightly late there.
All right, good. Thank you. Glad to have you with us. So with no further ado, I give you the floor, team, to introduce yourselves and get on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cedric. Thanks everyone here in the room for joining. Thanks everyone who is online. For the first minute or two of the presentation, I will try to make it a bit interactive so that you can move. The room is a little cold here, so it will warm up things as well. Just by a show of hands, I would want to know who follows football in here. Okay, good. Everyone, what a surprise.
Except Claude.
Second question, who owns a smartphone here? Everyone, what a surprise, except Claude again. Wow. Okay, maybe you will see the link if you've read the title. Now third and probably last question, who knows Burnley? Quite a lot, okay. Well, then my joke won't go down so well. No, but for those who don't know Burnley, it's a small town in England. At first, I was going to use the qualification of Burnley Rovers fans, but it wouldn't be appropriate, so I was told off by my own team. I won't say that joke, but it's not a nice word. Now, joking aside, Burnley is a very small town in northern England. It's the third poorest town. So just so that you know a bit as well of what we're speaking about. It's north of Manchester, but it's not exactly the same the purchasing power. Now, just before we get into the presentation very quickly, for those who were here this morning, you've seen methodology slides. We won't be going into this. We really want to focus on the output of this project, which is a digital strategy, because we believe that this is what is going to drive the discussion, an interesting discussion after the presentation. And if you see material that was not in the report, don't be surprised. It's normal. It's because football goes quickly and you have new stuff coming basically every day. So now, on to you.
Thank you. So the aim of our project was to strengthen Burnley's financial base off the pitch with digital and technological innovation. So they've been taken over by some new owners in the last couple of years, and they've really focused on data on the pitch in terms of players, and now they want to try and look at what they can do in off the pitch. So for For our objectives, what we wanted to do first was identify what sport clubs around the world are doing, what good looks like, and the trends that we can see in the research. Following that, we were then looking at what's working for the clubs and what isn't working for the clubs, so we could bring case studies to the Burnley team. Finally, we were then assessing what Burnley is currently doing and what gaps there are in between the trends and what Burnley is currently doing, to be able to then provide a roadmap for Burnley and how they can implement different strategies. In terms of the research, so as Ludo said, it's changing all the time. So the desk research was carried out throughout the whole process. That was looking at new articles and what's changing. Following that, we wanted to look at a few key top clubs. So we carried out research into 36 top European football clubs. We looked at their website, their app, their social media, and their e-commerce to see what they're doing and what they offer their clients. Finally, we then looked at the fans. The fans are the most important part of a football club, so we needed to look at what fans want out of their football club, how they stay engaged with their football club. We were then able to compile all that information and assess that against data we had from Burnley to be able to find what the key recommendations would be moving forwards. At the start of our desk research, we created a matrix just to guide our thinking a little bit more. So we looked at the key revenue streams for Burnley. You'll see we're missing broadcasting because we had no influence over broadcasting. So we've just got in the blue the revenue streams that we could influence. We found throughout the start of the research that fan engagement was really at the core of the digital and technological innovation. It's how we can keep fans engaged. And then we had the channels and the enablers that we needed in order to impact Burnley's financial base. So this got us to our journey to the North Star. So for Burnley, their North Star is to be the Disney of football. Quite a big feat, but we're thinking of ways that we can help get them there. So we have 4 key themes around social media development, gamification, the stadium experience, and esports. So we'll go into the first recommendation. So social media development. So why social media? Who uses social media here? Yeah, it's how we reach the masses. So social media, we have 4.89 billion people on social media, and they're using it for an average of 2.5 hours a day. This is how we can access the public. It also, there's an emergence of people using social media for real-time updates. They're using it for news, and they're also using it, there's an emergence of second screens. So people will not just be sitting and watching a football match anymore. They're going to be sitting watching a football match, and they're going to be on their phone, talking to their friends, looking on social media. Social media is one of the top 3 drivers of fan engagement. And finally, social media opens up new opportunities for commercial partnerships and things like that. And if you look at our fan survey from our data, you'll see that most of the fans stay up to date with their team through social media. So in terms of our strategy for social media, so it's really a commercial strategy that's using social media. Phase 1 is that we want to expand into new locations. So football fans in the UK are very loyal. It's very hard to get people over from other teams to your football club. So what we want to do is look at other markets and other countries. So the first recommendation is to expand into social media such as WeChat. That gets us access to the Chinese market. And we're able to then influence and start posting and try and capture some of the Chinese market. Following that, Snapchat. Now, Snapchat was a bit slow to take off, and I know that TikTok and everything has come along and overtaken it, but with Snapchat, what they've actually enabled now is a monetization feature, similar to the Instagram shop. Now, Snapchat, with that feature, amongst other features, it's actually taking off with Gen Z, and Gen Z is a whole new market of 15 to 24-year-olds that we can capture. With that, India uses Snapchat the most. And in the US, about 48% of Snapchat users are Gen Z. So we've got an opportunity there to capture some Gen Zs in different countries also. Finally, our phase 2, once we've implemented new social media platforms, we want to leverage off the strong social media performance of Burnley. So they have a very good creative team. If anyone's seen the Shrek announcement or the other one there, Barbie? Teletubbies. So they have their
Next one, I think.
Barbie. So if you haven't seen it, look at it. It's great. They announced their new signings with a clip of Shrek or a clip of Barbie, and it really took off, and everyone was talking about it. I don't know how many people, when I said I was working with Burnley, how many people said, oh, it's a Shrek announcement. So they've got a very strong social media presence. Burnley's engagement rate on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is actually higher, way higher than the average. So what we've got there is something we can sell to potential partners. So the idea is we want to create a digital campaigns strategy where we engage new partners and new businesses to come in, and we create content for them, and they are associated with the brand. What this does is it gives businesses an opportunity that may not be able to sign into long-term deals because it's a 1-year deal. So there's low barriers to entry, it lowers the barrier to entry, and it gives them an opportunity to get involved with Burnley, and we can then engage fans with storytelling, which is one of the biggest ways to engage people on social media at the moment. So we've got our beautiful model, Ludo. We couldn't find it, so that's what we got. So this is the Snapchat monetization feature. So you just need a 2D photo. You put it onto Snapchat, and then it gives you the jersey. So Juventus and PSG are currently using this, and this is something we think Burnley can use. Following that, in terms of digital campaigns. Thank you. These are some ideas of our digital campaigns. So through YouTube, it's a behind the scenes look at a day in the life of Vincent Company, the manager. It's in partnership with, we've done AXA Health, and the storytelling would be around showcasing him, what he does for health, him and his family, and that links into the brand values of AXA Health. So that's an example of a campaign. And then the other one is looking, because Burnley is really about their community. We want to partner with local community businesses in Burnley. So this is an estate agent, John Simon, and they're looking at the ones to watch in Burnley, which is the up and coming players. So that's the first phase, which touches into our fan engagement, commercial and merchandise.
All right, so as you saw, or as you can see from this slide, we'll be filling the strategy as we go through the presentation to have at the end a holistic view of our recommendation. Now, gamification, big topic. I would gamify this clicker if I could.
To push it really hard.
Merci. TikTok. Okay, so just coming back to the concept, the very concept of gamification, because we've heard that a lot, and for those that are in the program, you will probably hear that a lot. But the principle is that for an app, for a survey, when you introduce game elements such as leaderboards or questions, then you trigger game dynamics, and these game dynamics will influence and serve the psychological need of the human being, which generates intrinsic motivation, according to some theories, which in turn leads to engagement. Why is this engagement important? Because it is linked to a higher consumer commitment and higher willingness to pay. Further, it's also linked to a higher likelihood of referring a brand or a company, which can be super important if you're looking to borrow funds for the team. So Burnley to be the second team of someone. And why is it important as well? What we noticed in our customer survey is that apps are underutilized. So people don't use the app of a club. So that would be a way as well for clubs to redirect traffic to their apps so that they could sell potential partnerships on the app itself. Now, how do you do that? Merci. So the first step is a way as well to test and trial the concept would be to just implement some quizzes, and I have a few examples for you just on the next slide, to ask the people like, how close are you to a certain Burnley player? Who represents you the most? So it would be a way to test the gaming thing, and it's a way as well to collect some data about the fan base. Then in a second phase, because it's more expensive, of course, as well, is to implement gamification within the Burnley app. And clubs such as Manchester United have done this very well. They are very happy about the results. Okay, so this is the kind of quizzes that you have. The Pittsburgh Penguins did it. Oklahoma Thunder, right? Basket fans. OKC Thunder did it as well. Those examples are from 2022, so very recent. I'm asking this time to be taken off the clock. No, kidding. Going back. Wow, perfect. Okay, so very briefly, two phases. First, you test the gamification concept with the Burnley community with low-cost options, which also allow you to gather some data, and then you expand into a fully gamified app. So that if you notice at the first stage that it's not working with your specific target, then you can stop and you have not spend the money. And yeah, so basically, same revenue streams, different examples. Manchester United is a great club to look at if you're wondering how to gamify an app. Now, Stadium, Shalab, to you.
Yeah, thank you. So moving on to stadiums, I think whatever we have talked till now is more about, in a way, online, and which is not happening even when the match is happening. And the focus of stadium is where the fans are coming, they're watching the match, and how do we really enhance their experience? Because these are the people who will go back and they will talk to their friends and family, to everybody about their experiences. So I think the stadium experiences holds the key. And again, there are many things which can be done in terms of technology, but we really focused on two things which we think can really give us the boost and take care of everything. And if you look at the phase one, the idea is that we will digitalize all the match programs. So what it does is, it of course reduces the printing costs. It also is seen as a sustainability measure. It can have a very positive influence on all the fans. And this is a new thing which is coming up everywhere. Same way, digital also gives us more flexibility in terms of able to create new kind of programs, and even more flexibility when it comes to sponsorships. We could have different kind of sponsors for different locations and stuff like that. And as we know, if it is all digital, we can also distribute it outside the stadium, and it could also go on to the social media where people can talk about if there is something very particular or unique about the program. So that is what we want to target in phase one. Going to the phase two, we all know that a lot of capex investments have already been done. And so now is the time to really leverage it. So the first and foremost, which comes is, and again, which is mentioned, we have seen what happens in America, how they're enhancing the live stadium experiences. So we could have laser shows and light shows, which are happening maybe just before the game, so that the fans come onto the stadium much earlier than they usually come. And even during the breaks, I mean, there could be different kind of formats which could be tried. And all these things will, again, if we go back to the first and second point, they would be again shared by all these fans on social media, and they could be quizzes around some of these shows as well. Taking it further, I mean, we have so much data around players, what they're doing during the game. So we could have new formats, new strategic partnerships with sponsors where they could sponsor something like player who ran the longest distance, or what was the best tackle during the game. So all of these new things can be done during the game, even after the game on the LED screens, and that could really improve the engagement for the fans. Taking it further, there's a concept of a look-alike cam, where we could take photos of fans and we ask other people to really associate them with well-known personalities. And this again creates some kind of a buzz, and people get to know who's looking like somebody who they really like. And last but not the least, I think selfies is a big thing. We all know it. We all do it pretty much every day, every hour. So we could have a selfie challenge where people have to upload their selfies during the game. And they could be different kind of incentives, like the best selfie gets maybe a ticket for the next game. And there could be multiple sponsorship products created around all of these formats which we talked about. So even a selfie challenge could be sponsored by maybe a beauty cream or a wellness product company. So yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. And over to esports, I guess.
Yeah. So now we have two, if the clicker wants to, probably it's me, it's a me thing. So we have two great examples of sponsoring, but I think those would be great for questions. So I'm just directing to the panel. You should ask us about that further down the line. That's it. Okay, this one as well. And now esports. Perfect.
Okay, so with respect to time, I'll go a bit quicker. I'm pretty sure like this is a new panel, so I'll just quickly explain what is esports. Esports is a competitive video gaming environment where a player attains a specific level where it can be deemed as a professional, and they competed in international competitions for prize money, for sponsors. So it's similar to what a normal sport is, but we know what exactly this trend of esports is coming at. So the first question, why esports? Based on the first figure, we can see that it's been growing since 2017. And during COVID, it's been drastically increasing that trend. Just a bit of numbers, like during 2023, it's been projected to be at a market value of $884 million. And it's been projected to be at $2.2 billion in 2027. On the right side, you can see the top key players at this point in esports. It's only 4 at the moment: majorly China, the US, South Korea, and Germany. So for now, we wanted to check like how Burnley can go ahead and develop its esports segment that is significant for the growth, and how they can go ahead and target different areas. So it's again dependent on two phases. The first phase is quite important as it's dependent on team sponsorship and collaboration. So it's important for Burnley that we recommended to target specific esports organization whom they can partner with, after which they can go ahead and have creative content and co-host events. The second phase deals with more of in-game assets that they can deal with, which players can buy digitally and even create merchandise for the fans to go ahead and even purchase, which creates an real life experience. So we've got a few examples. So these two images that you see of Fortnite are a collaboration of Fortnite, which is a game they partnered with Juve and Celtic. They create in-game theme skins for them to buy digitally. And the second one is a team collaboration with an esports organization of PSG and LGD. LGD is a Chinese esports team well known for Dota 2. Both of them sponsored and they attracted a lot of new enthusiast gamers for PSG, a new market for PSG to go into, which ended with Nike and Monster coming in as the team sponsors. So that's about it.
Yeah, and this closes the fourth point of the strategy. Now we are conscious that all the points are not revolutions, but we also understood this when we went to Burnley. The first time we went to Burnley, we showed them AR to a stadium. We showed them chatbots. We showed them AI, to just then realize that this is not their level at the moment, and this is probably not the level where the sport industry is as well, and not what is needed for them. So that's the reason why it doesn't look like rocket science, but we really believe that if it's done properly, it will bring a lot of success to Burnley. And this is how we conclude the presentation. Many thanks for listening to us.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for questions, both by the jury and Amish as a representative of the client. We will have to keep this conversation within 20 minutes, so just be mindful of that. And out of courtesy, if that's okay, I will offer the first question to Amish. Amish, if you want to shoot first.
Thank you. Yeah, to be fair, I actually don't have too many questions. Obviously, we spent a decent amount of time together building this up, which has been good fun and very insightful as well. So yeah, not that many questions at all from me. I suppose probably the key one, maybe for each of the individuals in the group, is if you were to just say we could go and do one thing tomorrow at Burnley, what would that one thing be and why?
Talab, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think for me, I think social media is the big one. That is where most of the action is happening. So, and we have, like it was mentioned, we have a good creative going and everything going for us. I think if we just explore some of the new geographies and see what does it take to enter those markets, I think that could be a big boost to all the initiatives we have been talking about.
I would say right now we should focus on more or less on creating more fan engagement activities, which are quite famous at this point. We've got during the pre-seasons game, we are getting mic'd up players. We are getting referees who are wearing GoPros and capturing all the experiences, what's happening. And you've got halftime shows. That's a trend that's coming from the western part of the world. So I think there's a good scope of experimenting in these kind of activities to see how the crowd reacts. And given that Burnley is owned by a US firm, I think it should not be that difficult to experiment these things. Yeah.
I would say the phase one that we had of the gamification, because we're able to engage fans, we've got opportunities to put that on social media. So we're able to use social media as well and create some partnerships with the quizzes. We could have, what Burnley player are you in partnership with and so on. So it gives us a couple of avenues to go down with that one.
Yeah. The rational side of me would say social media, because I believe that That is where you have the biggest ROI opportunities. Now, the curious side of me would say gamification, because honestly, when we were speaking about this during the program, I was really not a huge fan of this, but looking at it during the project, trying to understand the psychology behind it, I think it would be extremely interesting to do it, just to understand whether it has really that much of an impact and it can really be that engaging for the fans. So yeah, two answers.
Can I continue with this discussion? Why do you have all a different opinion? Which strategic initiative to take? I'm surprised by this. We are to me.
I'm going to respond provocative.
It's made to fail if you all have because at the end we know that in strategy you have to be focused at some point. You cannot do everything. So I'm surprised that you all have a different opinion about what to do if you can do only one.
I don't think so. I agree with your point. I see your point. However, this is an organization that is changing, that needs to change, because as Amish said to us, and now.
But you think they have the resources to do all what you suggested short term?
This is why it's more of a pick and choose. You don't have to do everything at the same time. This is why there is phase 1 and phase 2. And this is why as well, they're not huge projects. If you look at it, they're not massive changes. The strategy that we have here is incremental change. So keep doing what you're doing well, while taking this into account. And of course, if you say that you're going to completely change your app from one day to the other, yes, this is a big project, but implement 3 or 4 quizzes on your website to gather data from your crowd and to engage with them. This is not a huge project. To start a Snapchat account and post on Snapchat as well on Instagram, this is not a huge project, but it allows you to reach out the masses. And of course, maybe esports is a bit of a bigger one, but Burnley already has an esport team. So it's not about creating an esport team, it's just about making their project better. You see? So that is my reaction.
If I may, like for us, like when we created the matrix and like when we did the initial research, fan engagement for us wasn't at the core of it. It was after speaking with Burnley and getting to know more in depth about what are the exact areas in a football organization. That's when we realized that fan engagement should be in the middle as a core. So for all our suggestions, fan engagement has always been there. That's what I think all 4 of us, what we have stated, I think it's about engaging with the fans, and it's to keep the fans like longer with the club and give them new areas to interact with Burnley.
And to conclude maybe on that question, I think it's only fair. Because if you go to an executive board and you ask the marketing director, what is the priority, is going to say marketing. If you go to the CFO, he's going to say my bottom line. If you go to the chief technical officer, he's going to say your development. If you look at the group, there is Shalab, that is a very technical guy. There is Arj, that has more of a customer specialist and e-sport background. You have Bronte, that's high into marketing, and I have background in finance. So personally, I think that it's quite normal that we have different point of views.
But then it doesn't help people from Burnley. Because at the end of the day, if you want to win the competition, which is for Burnley staying in the EPL and going up and surviving short term, you might need to have strategic impact. It's like when the American debarked in France 1944, they didn't go everywhere. They went boom, one beach, and then 2 days later in Paris. I'm just asking you, what do they do now? This strategy is about choosing and say what you will not do. So my other question is, which of your initiative would you put on the side now for 3 years?
Esports.
Okay, at least you have something. Okay, I'm done. Amish, you have another question.
Well, yes, it's a sort of question. It's kind of not necessarily on the subject, but I suppose more a bit of a selfish question for me. I guess I'd just like to know what's been, I guess, the most important thing that you individually have got out of this, or I guess, or the most interesting or exciting kind of element of this process for you.
Want to go first? Yeah,
You
shall
might
I?
have a different answer.
Yeah.
I think, for me, maybe echoing on what was said earlier, I think there's a difference between strategy and execution, and I felt that for a lot of things, maybe we have strategy in place, but when rubber hits the road, we see the challenges. So I would still go with whatever we do or we pick. I think if we do good execution of it, then we get the confidence to go further on that road. So I would just say that execution should be our focus. Even if our strategy goes bit or right or wrong, we can quickly change and execute the new strategy very quickly if we have the right team in place. So somehow I would still back execution, because the ideas will keep coming and going for whatever we might like or not like. The fans are evolving, the world is evolving, football is evolving, new sports are coming in. So whatever we might think or say, we would realize that fans want something else. So if our execution is good, I think we can cross any barrier. If our execution is not good, a lot of the strategy can stay on paper.
I think I agree with what Shalab has said. Like through this project, like we've been able to see like how a football organization works with taking away the football side, like the transfer activity, that is completely different. The business side of it, we knew like there's always strategy in place. They've got things in the pipeline, how to reinvent their online stores, how to reinvent the social media channels, where to go ahead, which areas to target. But it's just the execution that I think is sometimes does not take place, sometimes it delays. I think it's just about the right timing, and the execution is what we have learned. And like how we see when we compare Burnley to the top clubs, we see the execution part on the top clubs and somewhat like not that great execution on the Burnleys, and which is why we recommended our 4 recommendations.
I think for me, well, one of the highlights was obviously going to Burnley and seeing a 4-0 win in the director's box. That was pretty cool. But getting a feel of the club as well. And, you know, we did initially, Hamish, you remember we came in with such grand ideas, like Ludo had said. And then it was really important for us to get to know each department and then understand, you know, what can we actually do with Burnley and scale back a little bit and then adjust strategy to move forward and actually provide some value for what you can do instantly.
Yeah, and jumping on that, what was also super interesting is that the day before we were at the Etihad Stadium, and at the training ground. So yeah, we were at the Etihad Stadium and the training grounds, and then we were at Turf Moor the day after, just visiting the stadium right before the game. And yeah, those are 2 words that are completely different, but they're playing in the same league. And that's a beautiful way of seeing it as well, I think. And that reminds us that, yeah, you might do better if you have big money, but you can do a lot with reasonable money.
On this point, please, first of all, congratulations for the presentation, but could you be clearer on the question of financial and human means you have to invest to be successful in your strategy? You don't connect really the objectives mean and financial investment that you have to do to be successful. So if you can clarify this point, please.
You want to go? I go. Okay. Yeah, of course. Any big project is going to take a lot of resources. This is clear. Now the big projects they already did. They have a brand new VIP area. They have brand new LED screens everywhere in the stadium. They have the tools also to gather the data. I don't know, Amish, probably this hasn't changed, but you still don't have a network in the stadium, right?
We have Wi-Fi, but yeah, there's not connectivity.
Perfect. So this gives you an idea of where they stand in terms of means as well, and that's why if you look at all the projects that we suggested, there are small improvements, incremental improvements that you don't necessarily need new resources to start. And then, of course, if you want to go big and have a big gamification implementation or laser shows within the stadiums, then of course you need to finance them. But at the same time, now Burnley, they do have a platform with the Premier League that will allow them to generate instantly new revenues to cover the expenses. So I'm answering your question without really answering your question, and I'm conscious of that. But it's to really answer your question. Then we need to have a spreadsheet and look at numbers for quite a while, and I'm sure that they will do that.
Shala maybe has an answer, because you could say, let's go to Bollywood and secure the resources there, and we can do it with so much money.
But I think I agree with Ludovic that we still need to do the basic maths and the effort to come to a country like India and even Bollywood for that matter, because the people who are liked are really expensive. So in general, entry to a country like India is possible, but if you really want to get quick success and you want to get the top of the league guys, then again it can be very, very expensive. I don't know if you are tracking IPL, the Cricket Premier League. I think it's going through the roof in terms of media rights and everything. So I think it's much more bigger than even EPL. So fingers crossed. I mean, it might not be as easy anymore to even come to a country like India where people are starved for cricket.
So thank you very much for your presentation. I also very much like your work, and congrats also for, I know we are here for the oral presentation, but you also provide a lot of good things in the written part with a lot of support with literature, and so it helps to better understand the global overview of your whole project. But I have a question a little bit in line with Daniel's comments. I think maybe you should better identify the needs of Burnley before you provide a lot of strategies, but it seems that not all the strategies can reach the same aims. And I have the impression that here you have two main avenues. The first one is to make the existing fan community stronger and to reinforce the attachment of Burnley fans to their teams. And then you have the options of gamification, etc. And you have a second avenue, which would be to develop the image of Burnley, making the club more well-known. And then you have the options, for example, of esports with strategies of brand extension. And these are two strategies that are not, there is no competition between the two strategies. And just like Daniel said, okay, you should decide one strategy, but even the Allied forces, they had chosen 5 each.
Yeah, but they had some needs.
But yeah, so I think, and I'm not sure, and actually I haven't well understood if you Burnley has what is exactly what would be the first needs for Burnley? Is that to reinforce the community they already have, or to gain new, I would say, market shares?
I would say that we want to reinforce the community first. I think, they've had new ownership, they've been in a transition period with the new ownership as well. They've brought in an amazing manager, so they've got all this momentum behind them. So if they can build the community first, they're going to be at a stronger base to then be able to reach out to new fans also, but I think the fan engagement is at the core because, as I said, without fans, there's no plot.
The complicated thing about Burnley, and Hamish, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the impression that we had is that they have a really strong fan base, core fan base. So you should never forget about this. But if you want to grow your club, you cannot lose this. But to compete with the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, and just even to get close, you need to extend your fan base. And one thing that Hamish and the team there often mentioned is borrowing fans, is trying to be not the first team of someone, but that Ruben tomorrow is a Toronto Raptors fan, but also, well, not a great example because it's in basketball, but let's say he's a Juventus fan because Juventus is probably the best team that he could support. The second club then is Burnley. And he's aiming for that, to aim to convert these people, not necessarily to be Burnley fans, but to be Manchester City fans and Burnley fans. It's a concept of fluid fans that was explored a bit in a report, I think.
But that's why I think that, of course, you have studied much more than I the strategies, but that's why I think the esports option, for example, is nice because it would help Burnley to broaden its audience and to gain new fans, because unfortunately at the moment they for example the social media, etc., but you also follow more the teams that are very successful on European competitions. For example, Burnley has not yet reached that stage at the moment. So I think this kind of, the imports, for example, option, I found it very interesting, and I think it's, that could be a real kind of competition advantage for Burnley in the global fund for fans in the UK and more broadly.
Shall we take that as a concluding remark for this presentation? Thank you very much to the group who presented. Thank you to all of you for attending, and to Hamish and the jury. Turning to Hamish and the jury, will now retrieve to the meeting room to discuss and debrief this presentation. And we will reconvene at 3:15 for at least the jury members for a presentation which will be closed door. So the next public presentation